Good morning, Ashley. Good morning, Amy. And good morning, Jonathan. There's Amy. Hi, Amy. And Tony and Jonathan both. You'll see I've had a number of these students, your course mates. So I've seen Amy before. And I don't see Ashley at the moment, but I just saw Ashley.
I love Amy's comments. She is such a good commenter.
She is indeed. And Ashley, I have moved you. There you are. Good morning. I have moved you into cohort 3. So you're in there with Tony now. And I don't remember who else is in there. Amy, are you in cohort 3? Okay, so I know the two of you. And Chelsea is supposed to be in there. She's auditing the course, but she may not interact with us. So she did in Bill's course. And Tony, Bill and Jonathan, Bill is my husband, and you'll hear me call him my Bill. So yeah, my Bill was doing preaching last time around. All right. Well, I don't know who else will show up, but I do have 8:33. I'm notorious for not keeping good time. And I'm a TIDS optimist, one who is always late. And a TIDS optimist is one who is optimistic about time and always thinks that tasks take less than they do and never allow enough time. I tell my husband that it is because I'm so friendly and enjoy people that I just can't leave them, even if somebody else is waiting. But the upshot of that is whoever's next gets all my time. So he says no. Okay, I promised us a syllabus overview, and I know that the syllabus is voluminous. But it's kind of like McDonald's that had to put on their cups, caution contents like extremely hot, because everything and then some that I've encountered is in the please do and please don'ts of this. So the highlights really are really to engage the readings and the discussions, to interact with the readings and the discussions. I teach because I've been taught, and I have a huge love for the kingdom and for the church. And I know it's pastors that, and when I say pastors, I don't care if you're leading a church or not, if you're in a paid or an unpaid, we like to call those volunteer, but really they're unpaid ministry positions. I don't care what your role in the church is. If you're in any kind of leadership or plan to go into leadership, then I want you to be the absolute best you can be, because not only does the church, but the kingdom depend on that. So, so that's why I teach, and that's why I hate to say I have high expectations. I tend to have really high expectations of ministers within each of their abilities and their capabilities, but helping them and people in general to be the best that they can be. So that's why I want you to interact with one another, because I'm not the end all be all know it all, though sometimes I'd like you to think I am. So you each bring from your own experiences, and I believe we bring each of our pieces to the table and we put them out there, and the Holy Spirit will take it wherever it needs to go. So interaction, and to be able to interact, you've got to know the material and be able to play with that. But of course, you're learning the material. So in my grading scales, a C is you're doing really well. You've read the material, you're participating, but you may not totally grasp it yet, and that's okay. You're in a way, you're not supposed to grasp it. right when you're first receiving it, but I want you to play with it. Bring in other pieces if you have other pieces, and have read other resources. Bring them on in. So keep the deadlines. The deadlines were put in place a number of years ago because I'd find it was Friday and people were just starting to post. So the initial posting is to allow for the fullness of interactions. And I expect the interactions to continue. So you may only get up there one time a day, maybe in the morning, it may be in the afternoon or the evening, but as best you can to be up there. And then we post up until noon on Saturdays, unless you're here. So none of you have to post anymore or any today. And the reason for that is we all need Sabbath, and to expect you or to add to your work on the weekend, I won't do it. So at 12:01, I release the discussion questions so that you're able to do that. And I know a lot of you aren't able to have Sabbath because of church or, secular work responsibilities and the like, but I'm not gonna make it any harder for you. So please Sabbath, or at least do something nice for yourself, just one thing on the weekend, a day and a half to do it. Yeah, if you have standing appointments, emergencies, let me know. And I hope Ashley and Amy can attest that I try to be pretty gracious about that, right? So yeah, if something comes up, anything, all I ask is that you let me know. And if you know of something, I had a student years ago who was getting married, and he'd known about that for a long time because he had to reserve a spot in a big gigantic national park, and he told me the week before that he was going to be gone because he was getting married. I thought, oh my gosh, you knew. So yeah, just let me know of anything like that. Surgeries, spouses surgeries. We've had students whose spouses have cancer and they've had to be with them. And another expectation is you will be with them. Say, your spouse is having, I don't know, prostate surgery or breast surgery or whatever. Please take time with them. Those are major things. And the other thing about discussion forums is because we open and we close them, and each week is going to be rapid paced, we can't go back to them. So once they're closed, they're closed. And I found that out yesterday. I had closed the accountability question, and I tried to reopen it and it wouldn't let me reopen it. So just know afternoon on Saturday, they're closed and you can't add to them at all. Let's see. Cohorts. Okay, so everything, I can't show you the screen. Oh, yes, I can. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to share my screen to show you this. Ha, ha, ha. Where are you? Right there. Come on, share. I don't want Google Hangouts. Why are you there? No. Okay, I can't see my things because of my things. There it is. Okay. Let me save this. Save. Okay, in the modules. Come on, work with me. Here we go. Okay, so right now I'm working on week 2's modules. Yeah, there they are. Okay, you're going to see extraneous pieces on here because I copy paste and I've still got the pieces. So I guess I should just show you week 1. Okay, so this week's assignments has everything for this week except for what the readings are. So it doesn't tell you what the page numbers, anything like that. It's in the syllabus. All right. And over here on the side, if you ever need to get your syllabus, it's right there. So you've got this week's, you know what, let me do one more piece here because I can do this into student view. So it looks like what you have. Okay, there we go. All right, so there's your syllabus view. So this week's assignment, like I say, it has everything you need. It also has, it will always have the link, the video link, right, for Zoom, your Zoom link. It's got my contact information. I don't get notices when I have email. I get like over 100 emails a day. So if you're sending me emails, I'm going to see them, but it may be in the evening or later in the morning before I get a chance to look at them. So call me, and the number is on there in different places. Call me is the best way to reach me, and leave a message. Always leave a message of like when's the best time to reach you. So give me your best number and 2 or 3 times to call you, and I'll do that. The supplemental resources. So this will be where you'll find, you know, what those are. There was nothing this week but a silly video. I figure conflict is stressful enough, so I'm going to try and put some fun things in there. Let's see what else. Yeah, and this next week, there's only one supplemental resource, and it's really one to just to look at. It's my hierarchy of needs. It's based on Maslow, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is about the self, and it directly correlates to congregations, I found. So that'll be up there. Let's see. And I'll have those listed. So it's got the supplemental resources, and you'll see in this week, it has what the supplements are. And the way I number them are, I'm going to have to go down to next week's. So yeah, here's the hierarchy of needs down here in week 2. So 0-2 corresponds with the week's assignments. A1, the A is assigned. That means you're expected to read it. S is supplemental. You don't have to read it. And if you get something along the lines of an A1A and an A1B, read one or the other. Does that make sense? I'm running a lot of stuff past you, but I tape these sessions, so it'll be up there for you. Let's see what else. And then your discussion questions are up there. Accountability is always a group. I just made you all go away. The accountability question is always answered within the group. And as I put up there, never respond. It's a 1-sentence response. And it comes because we need to be in the Word every week and preferably every day. And I know most of us are not. And so I say, just pick it up wherever you can, right? But at least once a week. And that's what you're saying out of what you read that week, not for sermoning, not for Bible study, not for another class or whatever. What did you read devotionally that either attacked you, like what really, like, oh my gosh, what do you say there? Or confused you, or excited you, or scared you? Or Jonathan, I think it was, you had 2 this week. It excited you and something else maybe.
Yeah, convicted.
And convicted you, there it is. And convicted is that other word for attacked. So yeah, what convicted you? What really got to your heart? So that's accountability. And then the cohorts. The cohorts are written in the discussion forums line, right? So if you click on discussion forums, there you are. It will tell you how many accountability, content, reflection cues there are, questions. and then your cohort is there. So Amy, yeah, there you are. Amy, you were in cohort 3. No, Amy, yeah, I'm so sorry. I meant Ashley. Okay, so Ashley's name will be down there. It'll be Tyler, Ashley, Amy, and Tony.
Yeah, Tony, I think, was writing in a different cohort, so I tried to respond to you and yours, just so because we're in the same cohort. But yeah, 3 is where I'm supposed to be.
So am I in cohort? I don't know what cohort I am. I just posted in cohort.
You're in cohort 3. In 3. Amy, I know, I couldn't understand. I kept going back and forth and back and forth. And by, I don't know what day it was, I was so confused and I couldn't figure out. I thought, okay, Tony is new to me, right? So it takes a while to know like how each professor, right, works. And so I thought, okay, you just don't realize cohorts. But then Amy was in both of them. And I was so flipping confused. I thought I was the one who was misreading the cohorts. But
yeah, sorry, I wasn't trying to confuse you. I was just trying to catch him since it was really just me and Tyler and ours.
That's fun. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, Tony, and we get people almost, not for the last couple of sessions, but almost every session, we get people who will write, oh my gosh, I was writing over there in cohort 1. La la la. So I'll say, just copy what you wrote over there and post it into your own cohort. Okay, so that's cohorts. What else? I think that's pretty much it. Let's see, here comes someone else. Every time I work with, I'm sorry, I don't know how to get to where I need to be. Okay, that was something else. Okay, yeah, so anything else?
My cat has decided to join us.
That is all right. We have cats, dogs, babies, all as well.
Oh, she's trying to give you some leaven.
Yeah, and my bottom line too is respect. Above all, respect one another, no flaming one another nor your professor. If you got if you ever have questions about anything or about me or what I'm asking, then please contact me. You can email me or call. We can set up video chat, whatever works for us. I prefer to see people face to face because I can see eyes and face, do facial cues. Yeah, I much prefer that. And if anytime I've gotten caught into a text situation, I've had that happen before, or an email, I just take it onto face to face. Yeah, but that's the one thing I will not tolerate is intolerance. So I cannot tolerate intolerance, and recognizing that all of us come from different political and theological perspectives. So some of our students are extremely conservative, some of our students are extremely liberal, and yet we all find this place. And
my mother always liked to say, I'm just left of linen.
Left of linen?
Yeah, that's what she likes to say.
I love it. Okay, all this being said, another piece for this next week. I say it, I'll say it again here. We're going to be working with a conflict scenario in our congregation, and it's got to have enough substance that we can do analysis with it. We can look at it, and it's going to form the foundation of your final assignment, because you'll end up writing kind of a prescription for how it could be addressed. So I want you to be able to play with that. If you do not have a conflict scenario in your congregation, then you can take one you've seen in another congregation, or I can give you a scenario. I've had to do that before for students, so I can write up a scenario for you. If you choose a scenario or kind of develop your own scenario, make sure that you're clear about what that scenario is. And that will become clear as you do the analysis. These next 2 weeks are how are we analyzing conflict? And it's important to take a lot with conflict. We're often holding it in, right? It's here. Here comes my son's dog. So we hold conflict in here, and the trick is to get it from here and out in front of us so we can look at it. Both personal conflict and congregational work, whatever that is. So what we tend to do is we stuff it down, we keep it here, it makes us sick, or there are those long-term effects, right? Addictions, inappropriate behavior, anger, right? Anger is a covering emotion. We're stuffing down and we're holding it in here. The anger, it's going to erupt eventually, but we're still not working with it. And what we want to do is get it out here. One of the churches I served, the Bellevue Christian Church up in Seattle, east side of Seattle, I didn't realize it until about a month after, and I got sober after that. And about a month later, I realized I had been waking up for I don't know how long with fingernail indentations in my hands, so that when I slept, I was sleeping clenched fist like that. Yeah. What was your first sign that things weren't well?
Luckily, my church has so much conflict I can write about.
Good. You can choose, but you're going to have to choose just one. But my guess is, Tony, that, and I'm not going to put anything you're going to choose, right? But just that your church moved its building, there's so much that goes around that. So, you can look and even what was brewing behind that. But what I've seen is in the majority of cases when they move, they have to sell their building and move, that they end up closing within 10 years.
That's what I'm thinking is probably going to happen. I even said to someone, I bet within 10 years we don't exist anymore.
Yeah, you have to make a decision. It's a hard one. And I'll say here, and I'm sure I'll say this in later weeks too, that there are all the dynamics of churches growing down and those glory days. So when you have the people who remember the glory days in particular, there's so much depression that goes there. So churches suffer from clinical depression. You can actually diagnose it. You can pick up Tony, you'll know what this is called. I never get it right. The DMS something or another.
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual.
There it is.
And we're on 5.
Yes, thank you. 5. Yeah, you can clinically, you can actually diagnose it. So I tell people I'm not a psychological or medical doctor, but I sure am a church doctor, and I can diagnose. So yeah, just know that you've got that within you, within your congregation.
Can I ask you a question about the conflict?
Please do.
Should it be something current, ongoing, or can it be something, that happened a few years back?
I would prefer it be current, ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you are going to write a prescription.
Oh, okay.
In the end, yeah. That was a hard one for this last course on spiritual development that I taught, because a lot of us felt, well, who am I to be able to say this is what the assignment was? Look at a person, take a person in your congregation and do a spiritual assessment of them. And then how would you help them to grow in faith and spiritually? And so, of course, a lot of us feel that we're not qualified to do that, or we're inadequate. And the reality is we're all inadequate, right? And so there was that dynamic going on. But the other, it finally struck me at the last week or two was what you're doing basically is writing a prescription, and you're doing the same thing any med student would do. The doctor, right, wants you to go in there, your attending says, go in here and look at what's happening. What does the patient say? What are they talking about? And now what would you prescribe? You know, what are the next, what's their course? You know, the course for them. And so that's what we do, is we write a prescription. We're not going to apply it until it's been okayed, if ever. So that's what we'll end up doing in this course, is writing that prescription. And then if we're in a leadership position, or in totality, if it's congregational, if it's within our respective ministry area, like Ashley within the children's ministry there at in your congregation, excuse me, then hopefully it's something that you could at least suggest to address. And actually, yeah, for addressing it, if you're like the pastor, like Jonathan, I know you're the pastor of your congregation, that it's something that you would start to look at. Okay, how could we implement this? What would that look like? What are my next steps? So,
I feel as a deacon, like there's not as much room to be of assistance in those areas. I feel like a lot of times all I get to do is pass communion.
yes, exactly. Well, let me say this, Amy. Well, let me ask Amy one more. Do you have more questions, or did I answer your question?
No, that's good. And Tony, I mean, I've been a staff member at our church for like 2 weeks now, but so all these classes I've taken, I've been as like a layperson, and it's sometimes it's hard to translate the assignments to someone who's not professionally working as a minister. So I empathize with that. I think it is kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah, we'll take it where we are. Okay. Yeah. In the Disciples of Christ, Christian Church Disciples of Christ, elders and deacons. Initially, elders were the ministers. They were pretty much, and we had traveling ministers in the Methodist Church. They called them circuit riders, right? And so they went from circuit congregation to congregation, and that's what we had. We called them evangelists, and they would show up every month or every 2 months. We still have congregations that have that kind of a rhythm. So but each congregation had the elders. Those were your Rick. The elders were the spiritual leaders. Good morning, Rick. We're talking about elders and deacons. So they were the spiritual leaders. And in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, you only need elders at the table to have communion. The Presbyterian Church, the presbytery has to sanction that. In the United Methodist Church, you have to have someone who's ordained or has been sanctioned to do that. Same with the ELCA. Somebody who's ordained or has been sanctioned to consecrate the elements. Not in the disciples. And still in some of our congregations, you'll have the minister never comes to the table. In some of them, and I think most of them, the minister will be at the table to help, they'll say the words of institution and whatnot, but not in a lot of them. And in some of them, not in a lot of them, but not in some of them. And in fewer, the minister is actually considered an elder, the elder of elders, or the minister will take their turn, and generally in those congregations it's his turn at the table. So if you have 2 elders and each elder serves, say, for a month, then the minister will get his turn at the table for whatever month he's assigned to. And I do say him because I don't know of any with a woman that does it. These are old school churches. So the elders were the spiritual leaders, and the deacons were they did some of the teaching. They were the ones who visited the sick, who did what we now relegate to ministers, pastoral care. Oh, hate it. I did so, right? It was the pastor. No, it was the deacons who did that. And people liked each other. They would go and they would visit one another. That was just part of how church was. But in the late 1800s, beginning of 1900s, where more formal education begins to come into place, we start to get these ministers who are vocational, not bivocational, right? Or we've got ordinations really starting to take off. We've got the rise of seminaries is starting to come along, and now we get what I call seminary snobbery, that only, you know, ordained ministers are able to do this and able to do that. So now the elders begin to be relegated. Elders are not happy about any of this. And so elders are still allowed to be at the table. Deacons begin to, they're still doing pastoral care. You'll start to see elders and deacons doing communion, like taking communion out, where it might have just been the deacons. Now elders and deacons are doing that. Elders were the ones who did baptisms, right? So you tell an elder now that they're doing a baptism is part of their historic responsibility, they roll their eyes and say they could never do that. Yes, you can. You're allowed to do that, and we'll teach you how to do that. But we don't. And again, a lot of us snobs, we don't think elders should do that. So we take away even baptism from the elders, and women are getting more and more voice, but we don't give them voice, really votes. So what do you do with women? They become deaconesses, and deaconesses are the ones who prepare communion, who give you the towel when you get in and out of the baptistry. And that's what a deaconess does. And now the deacons again get relegated to passing communion. That's pretty much it, because now we have that pastoral care, and the pastor should be taking out the communion. But here's what happens, and you'll see this in a lot of your congregations, and you may recognize it to some extent. They're in that early 1900s, with the rise of seated ministers, we're going to call them the seated ministers, you get a fight between the minister and the elders. And so this really is blowing up. And so in the 40s, now I totally lost his name. In the 40s, there is a regional evangelist. Before regional ministers, there were regional evangelists. They were the ones who now they became the roving evangelists and went to the churches to preach and to teach, right? And they would do revivals. And so the evangelists, why am I on this tangent? Oh, okay. So they're getting all these complaints up from the congregations. And so this one up in Iowa, he wrote a book called, or he put a program together, and then he wrote a book, I believe it's 48, called The Church Functioning Effectively. The Church Functioning Effectively. And if your church libraries have a copy and you don't use your church library, I want a copy of that book. I cannot find one. Every time I go to an old church, I look through their library, I cannot find it, not even on, I think I found it on eBay at LTS, and it was like $600, and it's not worth $600 to me. Okay.
Can you say the name of the book again?
It's called The Church Functioning Effectively. And his name may come to me. It starts with a W, I'm pretty sure. So, okay. So what the functional church looks like, church structure looks like, is you have the minister, and then you have these elders. And elders are responsible for different ministry. I'm in my front yard, so I'm waving to my neighbors. Are responsible for ministries. Elders are going to get responsibility for Christian education and worship. So now that worship committee is taking care of, they're doing a lot of the planning. If you use like the Upper Room or Our Daily Bread, one of those daily devotionals that come out quarterly, those were always decided by the elders. If you use Advent or Lenten, devotional booklets. Those were always chosen by the elders. They chose the curriculum, not the secretary or each class or anything. All those were the elders. So they remained those spiritual leaders within the congregation. And then you get your deacons who are fulfilling roles, and that's really where it gets codified. Deacons pretty much only serving at the table, although they're in ministries, they're expected to be in ministries. So when you start to see if you've got an executive committee and a board, that's part of the functional committee system. It comes out of that. If you've got a worship committee, a Christian education committee, finance committee, those pieces, it comes out of the functional committee structure. And so you had the executive committee, which was the elders with the minister, the seated minister. They met and then they brought pieces together to the board.
Yeah, well, we don't have trustees at my church. The elders function as the trustees.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Any of that sound familiar to you? Do you see that vestiges maybe in your congregations?
I mean, that's exactly how we're structured. This came up a little bit in regards to term limits for elders. I mean, is that generally how churches work, that you come on and off, or you just are once an elder, you're always an elder? Or
oh, yes and yes. So initially you were ordained as an elder. So you're ordained just the way we have ordained ministers. Your congregation ordained you. And it's not until this seminary snobbery packs in, and really we're talking the late 60s, early 70s where that kicks in. So a lot of our ministers that they've retired now, or they're retired, they're going to be in their 80s probably by now. They went to Bible colleges. So, so you see them come out of Bible colleges and they don't have bachelors of divinities. They have, I don't know, they have something of divinity or of ministry along those lines, but they're not going to seminary. So we're still there ordaining elders in what we call the independent Christian church. So the churches of Christ and the churches of Christ, Christian churches of Christ, what we call the independents, they do congregational ordination, and it comes out of that whole elder piece. So, and the churches I've served, we ordain our elders, or consecrate them, we lay hands on them and everything, although they serve terms. So, I mean, it's still in there is this sense, once an elder, always an elder. But because of functional committee system, you can only have so many elders and so many deacons, right? So traditionally you had 12 elders and you had 12 apostles, right? And then you had 24 deacons. I think because that's double the apostles, it's because you need two for each month. It's because, let's see, because we had 6 to begin with, right? 6 men of, was it 6 or 7? Anyways, Book of Acts, it's chapter 6. But yeah, just think in terms of 12 months, 2 to serve, there you get your 24. But if you're always a deacon, always an elder, then you have to put them in, put them off. It really is, well, you all know who know me. I mean, I just have a lot to say about that and about church structures and about what healthy church structures look like, and the way, speaking within a conflict terms, that I always look at things as where we are and where we're going and how do we build the bridge. That's right. That's the prescription right there. So where we are, where we're going, how do we build that bridge? And so when I do any kind of church transition work, I say, where are you? Here's what healthy looks like. And now, how will we step past there? So I love working with churches with the functional committee system. And then we're able to say, okay, here's what's important to you. Obviously, worship's important to you. Christian art is important to you. That's the it's time to pray alarm. So these pieces are important to you. Now, what does that look like over here? We're not going to take them away. We're just going to make them even better. Take what works, right? What was it? One of my mentors a long time ago said, embrace what you have and extend. Embrace what works and extend. So we're going to take what's working well. And because of functional committees, here's the other piece you'll hear over and over again. Maybe you're saying it yourself. We have too many positions and not enough people. We don't have enough people. It's because functional committee system was written for much larger churches and could be adapted down to smaller churches. Sometimes the executive committee fell out of that structure. Not a good idea. Yeah, so we set up, you have so many people on each of those committees and when you can't fill it. So, you know, it's just that starting with there, that let's be realistic. This was written, here's the magic words. This was written for a much larger congregation. When did these bylaws, when were they initially written? How many people were here then? And how many people are there now? So let's make it work for us. Let ourselves off the hook. Yeah.
Well, I may start a little conflict in my church because I'm going to try to start a Bible study.
Okay, let's talk about that as we go along, how to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have thoughts for you, but not today, because my watch just tell me that it is 9:12, and that means we have 3 minutes to say goodbye. And I'm going to ask for any last questions before I pray. Are we good? Okie dokie. You guys are great. Thank you. All right, let's pray. Holy and gracious God, we thank you for calling us to where we are in these days and times. And I just ask you to raise us up to be the people that you need us to be in this place and time. And we thank you for preparing us for just for times just as these, each in our own respective areas, but also within your congregations, within your church, and within the kingdom, Lord. I ask you to continue to guide us as you stretch us, that you increase our capacities for desiring you, but desiring also to delight in your will and to walk in your ways. And Jesus, we love you. We give you this day, and prepare us to see you in a new way and to bring you and be you tomorrow when we gather with our church families. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you all.
Bye.
All right. I will see you on the boards, and Tony, 10 a.m. Monday.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Okay. Bye.